What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Tottenham 1, Fulham 2. Groundhog Day yet again here at Tottenham Hotspur. So much wrong with that performance. So much wrong with everything to do with Tottenham Hotspur right now. It's hard to talk about, to be honest. It really is.
The same streams same way every week.
I know. It's just
rinse and repeat at the moment.
I just don't even know what to say anymore. Seriously, just as
all wrong from top to bottom.
You know what? It's like no matter what manager you have in here, it's like it always feels like at some point you start to turn a little bit of a corner. It's like one step forward, 5 steps backwards. Dr. Tottenham rearing his ugly head again.
Surely the red flag should have been when a game we concede 5 goals and lose was seen as a turning point.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it should have been.
That probably should have been telling. Okay, maybe.
It's true, but you are playing like the best team in Europe at that moment in time, and we played decent. We played well, and it wasn't about how many we scored or how many we conceded. It's just about how we looked on the day and the fight that we showed and the chances that we created on the day. And look, yesterday was back to square one, basically. How the hell did you go 5-0 down off the back of a performance that we all thought we played well?
2-0 down, wasn't quite 5.
Yeah, how do we go 2-0
like
down? How do you go 2-0 down within 5 minutes? A complete shit show at the back. Like the defending for the first goal was so. We just left so many gaps, so standoffish. It was just ridiculous defending in the first minute of the game, and then Vicario does what Vicario does, and I'm just like, oh, just. Wanted
End the game.
Wanted the floor just to swallow me up whole right there and then. It was just so frustrating.
What did Porro say midweek? He said, "Don't worry, guys. We're gonna use the same attitude and mentality into this game." Isn't that what he said?
Yeah.
Well, what was that? Where was that?
Fast forward a few days.
72 hours.
Yeah. Fast forward 72 hours. He's going in on the fans.
Yeah, pretty much. You see, we'll get into it in Reacts, but you've seen he's read a statement.
Yeah, I saw the statement, yeah.
And, I mean, it's not pretty reading, is it? When he's talking about true fans. And that's what Frank is talking about as well, that he's going in on the fans. And it's just not... God, it's not a nice place.
I don't know what the whole situation is, though, because I saw the clip of Bergval there and then Pedro Porro shouting at him, but I don't know what the whole context of that clip is.
Well, from what I understand, Bergval is asking Porro to... Well, it kind of backs up what we saw in Porro's statement, because Bergval, on the clip, you can see he's kind of calling over to Porro to say, go and clap the fans, give them some appreciation. And I think Porro is kind of saying, look, if you go over there, you're just going to get loads of abuse, I think. And he's basically shouting at Bergval saying, look, just get back in. And he's like, I don't know what he's saying exactly, but he's clearly not happy, or he's shouting at Bergval. We're covering it. You have to put us on the left-hand side, yeah. And he's kind of being held back by Sarr. And... You can see here, look, so Bergval, he's shouting at Porro, hey, Porro, Pedro, get over. And then Porro, you can see here on the right, he's going over and he's not happy with something, and he's then starting to shout back at Bergval, and Sarr has to pull him back, and he starts walking away, and he trudges off down the tunnel and he takes off his shirt. So, and that backs up what Pedro's statement is saying, because he's saying, I can accept a lot of things, but I can't accept... my teammates being... What did he say? I can't accept my teammates being abused, or I can't accept... what did he say exactly? He said, I can accept a lot of things. Where's his statement? Here it is. He said, there can always be mistakes, but what I will not tolerate is hearing disrespect from the fans to my teammates.
So
that's what he said.
So is he talking about something that's happened after the game, or is he talking about the booing for Vicario during the game? Because that's what Frank had the issue with in the post-match press conference, was Vicario was being booed during the game. Obviously, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything of that. So what was that situation in the stadium?
So Vicario makes a mistake.
Yeah.
there's a few conflicting things about why the fans are being because Vicario makes a mistake and then he turns around and starts shouting at other teammates for some odd reason. I don't know who he's shouting at because it was completely his fault, the goal, like completely down to him.
Yeah.
And he starts shouting at people. Then every time, for the next few minutes, every time he got the ball, they were booing him. The fans were booing him.
That's not right, man.
That was horrible. I thought it was disgusting. And then there was one moment a few minutes later, the ball gets played in behind and he comes charging out again and he actually does clear it and puts it out for a throw, and there were sarcastic cheers for him, which is maybe a bit more acceptable, but still not I don't like to see that. And then the kind of booing stopped after that moment. But I think it's disgusting from the fans. There was actually loud booing. It was like quite a large section of fans. I'm not saying like it was like the whole stadium, but it was obviously coming from the south stand because he's right behind the south stand at that point, right in front of the south stand, sorry. And there was very loud booing in the stadium when he was getting the ball. And I couldn't believe it. I've never seen that before. I think there's been instances. I remember once, I think who was it, Sanchez, who got like booed or sarcastically cheered when he went off the pitch once.
Yeah.
Subbed. So there's been instances which again I didn't like. I don't like that as well. But to boo a player just because he makes a mistake on the pitch and like booing his every touch, is that who we are as a fan base? Is that who we are as a club? Is that how we want to represent ourselves? And I think Frank was absolutely right to call that out. I thought it was disgusting from the
So
I've
seen a lot of angry Spurs fans, and a couple of people called in the fan show being like, it's an absolute disgrace from Frank to call out the fans. And I'm like, he didn't actually call out the fans. He's calling out a certain section of the fan base that booed Vicario. It's not like the booing after the full-time whistle. He said that's fair enough. If the team put in a poor performance, you're more than within your rights to boo, and that's I'm happy with that. But I agree. I agree with you, and I agree with Thomas Frank on that aspect. Like, to single out a certain player just because he's made a mistake. And let's not beat around the bush here. Yeah, over the course of the season, Vicario has definitely saved us more points than he's cost us, in my opinion. I think that's the reality of what we've seen so far from Vicario. He's a leader within the dressing room. He's made a horrific mistake, and it's not good enough. Don't get me wrong, but the fans should not be singling him out and booing him of his every touch. I think that's disgusting.
As if he did it on purpose. I understand he did have multiple opportunities to clear it, and he, for some reason, took it upon himself to try and I don't know what he was trying. I don't know if he was clearing it or passing it or whatever. Every goalkeeper in that situation obviously puts out for a throw every time. That's like the known thing to do. So I understand the frustration. I understand the frustration. I understand that he completely screwed up that situation, completely fucked up. There's no two ways about it. But to then target him and boo him and as if he did it on purpose. Some fans though are suggesting he was being booed because he was blaming other players for his own fuck up and he was shouting at other players. And I understand. I don't know why he was doing that as well. That's also not really acceptable from Vicario. And maybe there's some suggestions that the fans were making their feelings known that Vicario blaming other players and trying to scapegoat someone else but himself is also a bit unacceptable from him. So I understand that my way of thinking, but I doubt the fans were booing him because of that.
But what's the expectations here once you boo a goalkeeper? Once you boo your own goalkeeper 6 minutes in and you're 2-0 down? Is that I think someone mentioned it before in the comments. Is that supposed to raise a level of performance? What is that supposed to encourage a player to perform better? What is the plan here? What is the expectation from booing your own player 6 minutes in?
Yeah, I don't get it.
It makes no sense whatsoever. No sense whatsoever. But look,
is that how we support our own players as well? Booing them because they made a mistake is beginning of a game. Is that what we are as a fan base?
You want them to put it to the back of their mind and get on with it and just get better.
Yeah, I really, really hated it. I hated it, and I thought it really created a really horrible feeling, a negative feeling. And I wouldn't be surprised if what Porro was saying after the game was probably more related to that than maybe the booing after the game. And maybe he was really, he was pissed off with the fans that they singled out one of his teammates, and he was like, "Look, they don't deserve our applause." And maybe that's what he's trying to say, with that. And I don't know. I don't know whether he has a point with that, or whether the fans should be the players should be appreciative of the fans, however the fans behave. Put it this way: the question is, is there an expectation or should they be applauded after every game, no matter how they behave, even if how they behave was unacceptable, like it was in that situation?
But are you gonna label every fan with the same brush? You know what I mean? There's 60,000 fans in there. I doubt 60,000 fans were booing, you know what I mean? So the fans that weren't booing, so they just get the same kind of treatment as the fans that they were booing.
Yeah, but
I think that's a bit unfair.
Don't know that, do they? I guess when you hear booing, it sounds like a lot, doesn't it? It sounds like a lot of the fans. They can't really calculate how many the fans were booing and were not.
Of course, but you know, surely you know. I mean, yeah, look, I haven't heard it, so I can't really make a judgment call on that. But I think players are professional, and they should probably just get past it and show their appreciation anyway, because a lot of fans do come out there and show their support for the team, and I don't like it. I don't like it when the players don't show appreciation for the fans, and the players got a lot of making up to do as well. It's not like the players did everything in their power to go and win that game yesterday. You know, it's an absolute disgrace the way the players conducted themselves in the first 45 minutes. So. Look, the reality is, right, this club is an absolute shit show everywhere. The management's a shit show, the playing staff's a shit show, the fans are a bit of a shit show right now. I mean, everything right now is just all wrong. What
I would say about Frank's post-match comment about the booing, I think he's absolutely right to call out the fans booing Vicario, and I've got absolutely no... I think actually he's completely correct, and I actually appreciate him for that. I respect him for calling out the fans, because I think they deserve it. But he is going to dangerous territory when he starts saying... these are not true Tottenham fans. That's when he's getting into a bit of dicey territory there when he starts saying that, because he's new to the job, he's underperforming, and a lot of fans are not happy with him. A lot of those fans booing, however you think of them, probably a lot of them are spending a lot of money, and a lot of them are season ticket holders. I'm not saying they were right to do what they do, but when Frank starts saying these guys who are booing are not true Tottenham fans, he does get into a bit of dicey territory there, I feel. Yeah,
look, he's not the first manager to do so. Ange also did something similar, didn't he? When he was getting hurled abuse from the away ends. He was like saying these guys are not true Spurs fans. So, I mean, it's not the first time we've heard this, and it's fans' frustration for the product that they're seeing on the pitch, for the way games are managed, and it's just hard to watch. That's the reality. It's just hard to watch, and those 45 minutes, like I said, nothing short of pathetic. It really was.
Yeah.
All the kind of things that we saw in that PSG game when we thought, you know what, there might be some signs of life here. We've reverted back to all the nasty traits that we've seen in the previous games before that. And let's be real, right? At half-time, it should have been 4-0. Like Van der Ven. Thank God for Van der Ven, because Van der Ven solely kept us in that game by himself pretty much. That tackle when one of their players took it round the keeper, that tackle was one of the best. That tackle was one of the best tackles I've seen ever.
I haven't seen it in the highlights package, but when I was watching, there was also another moment where a cross comes in. Jimenez has like a header, which is going in, right, and he blocks it. I don't know if you remember that moment.
Yeah.
That would have been a goal, right? And I don't know why I haven't seen that in any of the highlights packages, but that seemed to be a massive chance, and Van der Ven again saved us on that occasion if it wasn't for him getting in front of that header from Jimenez.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I would say about the first half, it was awful and it was absolutely terrible. I would say, in Frank's defence, not that we should be defending him, a lot of those moments came from absolutely inexplicable errors, from like individual errors from like Vicario, or that moment you're talking about was from Porro, like completely allowing Chukwueze to run through when he had complete control of the situation. So there's only so much you can do in those moments, but in the first goal, how many times?
That's not an individual error.
No, how many times have we allowed just 3 shots on the edge of the box?
But it felt like at times, like all it took was for one ball and our defence would be completely split open. Like that's a structural problem right there.
Yeah, true.
Like it just looked like it looked like every time Fulham were going forward in that first half, they were going to score. That's what it looked like.
I also don't understand what formation he was playing. It seemed like the players were confused what formation they were playing.
I was confused as well, because like, when I first saw the team lineup, I was like, all right, cool, good lineup.
Same as Wednesday.
4-2-2-2. We're going to be compact. We're going to be, pressing high from the front. And then at times I saw Richie out on the left, and I couldn't work out the formation throughout the game. I said to Stel during the watch along, I was like, can you please tell me where our players are playing? Because I have no clue.
And I was watching an Ali Gold video before today's stream, and he was saying he was talking amongst all the journalists, and none of them could work out what the formation was. And usually, you know, once the game settles in, maybe at the start it can be difficult, but usually once the game settles, you can kind of see the formation or how they're trying to set up.
Yeah.
I had no clue in this game. I think the idea was in possession, maybe like to have a doggy wide left, Bergval inside with Kudus off the right and 2 strikers. But it seemed as though that barely ever happened. It was mass confusion, I think, on the pitch as to who was supposed to be playing where at what time. Everyone was just kind of floating around doing their own thing. We had no kind of idea how to play through the middle. Whenever we played through the middle, we looked absolutely clueless. Gray was losing the ball, Paulinho was losing the ball, and we were getting bossed by Iwobi and Sanderberg. They were completely bossing it in the middle. We just seemed like we had no idea.
Lost, didn't he?
He absolutely lost. The only way we looked like we could get forward was obviously through the right yet again, through Porro and Kudus. But even then, the tactic seemed to be get Porro down the line to Kudus, go down the line, cut back, pass it back to Porro, he whips it in, and we try to create a chance. That's kind of the only method of attack we had. We down the left, it was absolute shit show. We didn't go down the left at all. It was basically just a doggy down the whole left wing.
And he was poor.
Like, he had no support. No, he was poor, but I felt for him because he was we were getting the ball out wide to him, and he's looking ahead of him. There's no one there. There's actually no one ahead of him. So he was basically 2-on-1 the whole time. The whole point of a doggy overlapping is so you have a left winger there. He kind of takes the attention away from him. He goes into the free space down the byline, then you can find him there. But you can't just ask him to cover the whole left wing and ask him to be your left winger and your left back, essentially. That's never going to fly. And he was basically 1 against 2 every time, and he had no option. You'd give it to him, and there was 2 defenders in front of him. What's he supposed to do? Like, just dribble past them. So, and yeah, he was poor, don't get me wrong, but I did feel for him a bit. Like, I don't understand who was tasked with helping him out on the left. There was no one there helping him.
But this has been a problem all season where Frank has expected certain players just to be miracle men. Kudus is one of them. Udogie's another one. I've noticed it in the last couple of games when Udogie has played, like maybe, well, he didn't play the PSG game, but, you know, he asks Udogie what he does. He gets the ball down the left-hand side, and like basically everything that you just mentioned, he charges up that left-hand side with barely any support, and he's just asked to do everything on his own. Like, these players can't do everything on their own. Like, it's a team sport, for God's sake. Why are we relying on such individual quality in every game? It makes no sense whatsoever. It seems like there is no sort of tactical plan whatsoever, and it's so frustrating, man. And it's like, where was the passion and fight from the beginning of the game that we showed in the beginning of the second half? Because I thought when we came out for the second half, no changes, which I was surprised about. But actually, Frank seemed to get something out of them in the second half, because I thought we were peppering them. You could sense a goal was coming. The goal came with Mohamed Kudus. The 3 changes were there, ready to come on before the goal comes on, which is fair enough. We're making changes. But the goal comes, and then as soon as the sub comes on, that's it. All momentum was gone. Like, I think the changes massively hampered us.
I think it did, but I actually thought for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes after the subs made, we did have, like, it did give us a little bit of burst of energy. We did nearly score, like Simmons nearly scored. Like, we were looking good. And then I think it was actually when Bergval went off. Like,
he was brilliant.
Yeah, it really killed us. Like, because all of a sudden he goes off, Sarr comes on, and we had absolutely no impetus on the ball.
Yeah.
We had no one who could pass forward in between the lines. We had no one who could progress the ball forward. All of a sudden, you're expecting Sarr. I understand maybe he had to bring on some energy, but we had no one who could take the ball under pressure, turn, and pass forward. Bergval was really getting into the game. I did feel like, to be fair, he was getting a bit lecky, so I understand that. But still, he was the only one who was adding a bit of quality when it came to our on-the-ball ability and our ability to pass forward, and it completely killed us, I felt, when he went off.
Yeah.
I thought the triple sub, I thought it killed the momentum a bit, but I felt we still looked like maybe we could score. We were adding a bit of energy.
But before the 3 subs, we were like heavily on top, and it looked like, we were attacking so well down that right hand. Mohamed Kudus, for those opening like 15 minutes of the second half was bloody brilliant.
Yeah,
he was like, you know, one of the best performances I've seen from him in a long time in that period of the game. And Porro, I thought he grew into the game at that moment as well, and he's putting good balls in the box. We were just peppering them, like going, again, wave after wave after wave.
Agreed, but again, it was all Porro and Kudus, wasn't it? So reliant on those two.
Yeah, I think Bergval was doing a fantastic job driving us forward through the centre. He was ultimately, the plan for him, it was get the ball to those guys.
Yeah, but still, it's like if we're not getting like Kudus in the game, it's like we have no other method, sort of like trying to hurt the opposition or getting crosses in. And again, the only method, even in that period, was just get it to them and cross the ball in. And it was working a bit better in that second half. Wani, had a chance with the header, and obviously Simmons had a chance, and obviously we got the goal through Kudus, which was, you got to say, a great goal, but it wasn't exactly a chance. He just scored a bit of a wonder goal out of nothing. So fair play to him. But we still didn't really break Fulham down too much. It was just getting those crosses in, and it maybe the crosses were just a bit better in the second half, and we got a few chances in. But again, I don't know if that's a sustainable way of winning football matches. But it was better in that bit. But we did petered out so badly in the last like 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely, it did. Yeah, that's the honest truth. But why are we why do we have that first half that we had? I just can't get my mind around it. Like, what is leading to everything that we're seeing on the pitch right now? Just like, he can't seem to manage this club. That's the reality. Like, it's so hard to watch. There's no sort of identity with this team. There's no sort of avenue to attack. There's literally nothing to go on to suggest that this is the right man for the job. That is the reality, as much as it hurts me to say it, because I was a massive backer of him. I can't see a way. I can't see a way of this turning around. There's no positivity to take from any of our performances, bar PSG twice and Man City. I thought we put in very, very good performances. Apart from those, are only very good performances that we've put in under Frank. There's been a few decent performances, a few okay performances, but in the last 10 games, it has been diabolical.
It's just too much tinkering, I feel. Again, he tinkered way too much with the lineup. And I think he could have been he could have been braver. He could have put Javi in from the start. I know he didn't exactly do amazing when he came on, but he could have put him in. I think he would, if he would have started him closer to a Doggy, I think that could have been something that we could have got much more joy off if Doggy had a bit more help on that side. Like that formation 4-2-2-2, that, you know, that's a formation he knows very well when he was playing at Leipzig. I think he could have been a bit braver in his selection, or he could have just stuck with what he did on Wednesday, and he didn't really even do that. I don't understand why he decided to again fiddle with the formation, again fiddle with the tactics. Like, it's just every game he's chopping and changing. Yeah, I think he feels like, you know, he comes up with all these specific plans, but at the end of the day, you need a little bit of stability so the players get familiar with each other, get familiar with the way of playing. And at the moment, I feel like he's like too smart for his own good at the moment. He's like, keeps chopping and changing. He feels like, we're going to change the tactic this week we're going to play this way. And the players seem utterly confused at the moment. They seem clueless about what they're supposed to be doing and what their way of playing should be on the pitch. And I think that stems from his constant tinkering with the way we're playing from game to game. And it's way too much at the moment.
But regardless, whether we tinker or whether we don't tinker, and look, I agree with you that, you know, it's too many changes game on game. Like, how many different formations, how many different personnel have we used from game to game? It's nuts. But even within that, the principles of the team are not being matched by the principles of Frank in terms of winning your duels, stay compact, clean sheets, you know, how he prioritises clean sheets and stuff. We're so open at the back, particularly in that first half. Like I said before, one ball through the middle, and it looks like every time Fulham are going to score, the only avenue of attack is to get crosses in from wide areas. It's just like, that is a clear method of what Thomas Frank wants to bring to this club, where you only attack through wide areas and you only attack by spamming crosses in the box. It's just like, that is no way to build attack for Tottenham Hotspur. It's not effective. It's not going to work. And it's pure dross. That's all it is. That's all we're seeing right now. And we're acting like basically League One and League Two clubs when they play against big boys. And that's it. Like, what are we watching here? Like, seriously.
I agree. I completely agree. Yeah, but when I was looking at the players, I see them running, I see them trying to press, but unlike against PSG, when we were getting so much closer to them and we were forcing them to, forcing errors, or we were forcing them to be under pressure, we weren't getting close to the Fulham players. We weren't forcing them into mistake, apart from maybe in the second half. We weren't being dominant in that way. We were maybe a part in the second half, but in that first half, we were, again, defensively just so passive. And they were just finding it so easy to cut us open with one pass. And it was really horrible to watch. It's really tough at the moment. It's tough. There was a weird moment at half-time as well. I don't know if the cameras picked up.
You talk about when the players kind of gathered at half-time.
Yeah,
when the final whistle went.
The whistle goes, and then Bergval, it seemed, and I think Van der Ven as well, gathered the players into a bit of a huddle in the centre circle. And they kind of had a little bit of a team talk, between themselves in front of everyone before going into the tunnel. And Frank charged around the tunnel very quickly after half-time. He was writing some notes. I actually caught it on camera. He's writing notes, and as soon as half-time whistle, he darts down the tunnel. And the players themselves decided to have a little bit of a discussion, but Bergval seems to be the one leading the discussion, which is, I don't know, it says a lot about the team and the squad, doesn't it, that he's the one who's doing that. He's taking it upon himself to take responsibility. Seems very odd to me. Shouldn't it be the senior players, if that's going to happen? And also, I don't know how I feel about it. Why not just get down the tunnel and discuss it in the dressing room? Why are you doing it?
Maybe they wanted to discuss something without the manager next to them.
I mean, that also is telling.
I think, I said it last night, I've got a feeling that there are certain players within that dressing room, and I don't know who they are, that don't respect the manager. I feel like some of them are just lost playing under this manager. I feel like they're not buying in to what he's trying to do. I think the report that came out a few days ago saying, some sections of the changing room, of the dressing room, feel like we're trying to stifle opposition instead of focusing on our own strength. I think that plays into it. I think when you saw Mickey van der Ven and Jed Spence just walk past Thomas Frank in that game, I can't remember which game it was, at Chelsea at the end of the game, I think that's a evidence of players not respecting a manager. I think it's clear. I think it's clear that some of these players don't respect this manager. He doesn't command the respect.
And it was, not to harp on Ange, but last season, this isn't about Ange. It's more about the players themselves. Last season, you didn't see this from the players. You saw Ange have some instances with the fans, right? He had some clashes, but I don't remember the players having so many public kind of instances of what we've seen recently, of discontent. We never really saw that last season, even though we were in such a run and we were finished 17th. We never saw it from the players. And in fact, the only thing we did see is, I remember Tell going into the crowd and trying to reason with the fans and stuff like that. But at the moment, there seems to be a real frustration from the players, definitely towards the fans, but within the dressing room as well.
Yeah.
It seems to be I don't know what's going on. I don't know if some of the players are, on Frank's side and some of them are not. I don't know if it's split in the dressing room or not, but there's something wrong in the changing room, it feels. Because you don't get all these instances of public discontent if all is well, and everyone's behind what's going on and everyone's in favour of what's going on.
Yeah.
And
look, at the end of the day, like I said before, I was massively in favour of having Frank at this football club, but we can't keep going on like this. Look, there's something to say, stick with the project. They went through this whole 100-manager, 10-point process to hire this manager. So if you're part of the hierarchy, you earmarked Frank as the long-term successor for Ange Postecoglou and to take this club forward. And you would suggest maybe they're going to stick with him through thick and thin. But there's just nothing for us to go on right now. There's nothing for us to say this is the manager to take us forward. With the players that seem to be disrespecting him, with the tactics that we're deploying, with the multiple different tactics we're deploying, with the fan discontent at the moment, I don't know which direction they go in, because do they stick with it through thick and thin and hopefully come out the other end? Because there have been some instances of other managers where that's happened before, but then there is a question mark to say, are you sticking with the wrong man, and are you just going to leave yourself in further trouble if you do stick with it? I don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is things just cannot carry on the way they are. And I think, like, you're looking at our fixtures from now until the end of the year. I generally looked at that fixture list, and it's not like we've got incredibly hard games, but I couldn't tell you a game that we're going to win. That's the worrying thing about it. Like, we've got Newcastle away next. Like, I don't think any Spurs fan can see a win there. After that, we got Brentford at home, I believe. And I'm just like, that game is just a recipe for disaster. Brentford at home.
It's written, isn't it, for us to lose that game?
That game's a recipe for disaster. And then I think we got, who do we got after Forest? No, then we got Forest away, which, I mean, I can't see us getting anything there. 1st of January, we got Brentford away, so we've got Brentford twice by the 1st of January. And we got Liverpool at home as well. They're winning today. You can expect them to probably come and beat us. It's just like Palace away as well. Like, can you imagine us going to Palace and winning? I can't. Like, all these games, I cannot see a win. So if we keep dropping points, we're 1 point away from 15th right now. By the end of that run, if we don't win, we could be well within, rooted into the bottom half of the table.
How mad is it? Fulham, with how bad they've been this season, versus Dr. Tottenham giving their first away win of the season. With that win, they only go 3 points behind us. How mad is that? They've been awful.
They've been as bad away from home as we've been at home.
I understand that. I'm just saying, it's crazy to think. They've been like, we were talking about them potentially being relegation candidates, and one win and they're 3 points behind us.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Look, I don't think we're going to get dragged into that conversation. Like, I guess I never thought we were going to finish 17th either last season. We did.
I don't have a fear of getting relegated, but I've got a fear of just being, bottom half of the table dross.
The question is, if the losses keep coming as they are, and there's not really a viable candidate that everyone's really happy with in terms of like a long-term solution. Like when we keep going back to it, but when it did happen with Nuno, Conte was sitting right there. He was just a natural, the perfect guy to come in and change things. And obviously he was only there for 18 months, but obviously he's a world-class manager, and he did get us playing straight away and got us to top 4 that season. Right now, there's not really a obvious candidate like a Conte just sitting there ready and waiting for the call to come in. So if the right manager, a long-term appointment isn't there, is it just a case of, if the option is, okay, either ride out Frank or get an interim in, like put Cochrane in charge, or I don't know what other interim managers that there would be available, get Sherwood in for 6 months, I don't know. I don't know what other interims are there. What other interims would get, I saw Pleat in the stands, maybe he wants an interim job.
Brendan Rodgers,
but forget, I don't think Brendan comes in as interim, maybe he would, but look, what do
pay him enough, he will.
Maybe, but what is the what would we prefer? Do we prefer having an interim like we did with Mason a couple of times, or maybe put Cochrane there, or do we just ride out with Frank and see if he can just garner something, second half of the season or whatever, and see if he can turn it around?
My opinion would be right at this moment in time to ride it out with Frank to see if he can turn it around, but the worse it gets, the less belief, like the more this negativity and toxicity settles into this football club, the worse it's going to get for him. And, at some point, if it keeps going this way, it's going to become an untenable situation. That's the reality. So the club might be without a choice. However, you look at Arsenal and what they did with Arteta. There was fan discontent. The fans were booing the team. They went 8 losses in a row. Everyone was laughing at them, saying, how are you keeping this rookie manager? His tactics, he's tactically inept. He's this, he's that, he's crap. And they rode it out. They backed him. And they're in the title race and the best team in the league.
It's true, but you know what? I was actually looking into this yesterday because I wanted to see how bad actually was it under Arteta, which they were riding out. And don't get me wrong, there were points where it got really bad, but if you actually look at the start of his tenure, he came in under Unai Emery when they were 12th. They were struggling a bit. From the point he took over until the end of the season, they actually were 6th in the table. So the results did dramatically improve when he first came in. And on top of that, they won an FA Cup.
Yeah.
So he had that credit in the bank. Then the next season did start disastrously. I think after 14 games, they were 14th or something. So it started really bad. However, he did have a bit of credit in the bank, having won the FA Cup and having improved the results. And then that season, after that run we're talking about, he did lose, I think, 7 out of 8 games, or it was a disastrous run. They ended up finishing 8th, and they had a very strong end to the season. I think they won something like 8 of the last 10 or something, like 7 of the last 8 games. So they had a very strong end to the season, and then obviously the next season it improved. So there were things even in that period for Arsenal fans to, or not say Arsenal fans because a lot of them wanted him out, but for the hierarchy to sit there and say, like, there are reasons why to stick with this and reasons why to trust the process, quote unquote. Right now for Tottenham, he doesn't have any credit in the bank. He's coming in a new job. We're not showing any sort of... it's not like, even with Ange, we had that first 10 games to see what he's capable of. We don't even have that to cling on to at the moment, as to say, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I can bring to the team with when everything's functioning. We don't really have that. We maybe have 1 or 2 games. But even then, those on the games, like, it was good, but, like... That's not your bread and butter games. Those aren't the performances you're going to have to be putting in week out. Those are games maybe for specific games like City away where you have to set up in a certain way. Whenever we've played against a team that we have to like attack and beat, we've really badly struggled for performances. So that's the difference. Like Arsenal with Arteta and even Klopp with Liverpool. Estelle, I watched the stream yesterday. I know he finished 8th in his first season, but he got to 2 finals. And he also had some really good performances. I remember that I battered Man City at home like 3-0, like in a really like rock and roll performance. Like they had those key things to show what he's capable of. But with Frank, it's just we haven't seen any of that.
But also, Frank is starting off in terms of squad-wise a much better spot than Arteta and Klopp both started out as. You know, Klopp didn't have Alisson, he didn't have Van Dijk. He had to bring them all in, and they had Lovren at the back, and you know they're getting cut open. Remember that game that we beat them 4-1, like how easy it was to play through them. Like they conceded a lot of goals because they didn't have the personnel. We've got World Cup winner of Romero. We got Mickey van der Ven. We got fully fledged internationals. Like I think we've got good players there for the most part. You know, I think in the forward line, you know, the squad can do some work, but I just don't agree with everyone that's saying like, what can he do with the players that he's got? This is not what Arteta walked into Arsenal with, where the whole squad needs to be gutted out. This is not what Klopp had to do, like a whole rebuild of the personnel, of the playing staff. Like he's actually got a decent squad to work with. Like I think when you're looking at our squad, we're probably a top 6 or a top 7 caliber squad.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry. Look, I'm looking at the team yesterday. I've seen a lot of people on social media starting to jump on the bandwagon. The players are just clearly not good enough. The players are just absolutely rubbish. Vicario is in the Italy squad at the moment. I know he's backup keeper, but he's in the Italy squad. Porro's starting right back for Spain. Van der Ven starts for Holland. Romero's a World Cup winning captain for Argentina. Adoghi's in the squad for Italy. Bentancur has won many titles starting for Juventus and is, starts for Uruguay. Paulinho was known as a very good defensive midfielder when he was in the Premier League, when he was playing Fulham. Xavi Simons starts for Holland, and he was one of the better players in the Bundesliga. Mohamed Kudus was highly sought after, and he was signed for 50 million. A couple of seasons ago, he got 14 goals for West Ham, and when he was playing for Ajax, a lot of people want him, and he had plays brilliant for Ghana. Mouani's a regular in the France squad, right? So all these international managers just picking shit players. Is that what we're saying?
No, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree with you.
I know. I'm not replying to you. I'm replying to the people on social media, or the people who suggest our players are no good. Like Bergval's a great. I know, fine. Bergval great. They're young talents, and yes, they're not quite at their peak yet. They're teenagers, and I understand they're going to have bad games, but they're still really good talents. They are
a hell of a lot better than what they're showing right now. That is the pure facts, and that is the reality. And anyone, like Danny called in yesterday, I was like, the players that we've got, they deserve to finish. You know, we've probably got the 14th or 13th worst squad in the league. And I'm like, what are you on about? Like, how have we got the 13th or 14th worst squad in the league? Like, we've got decent players there. They should be finishing 7th minimum, at the very minimum. You know what I mean? So I think that whole narrative is complete bollocks. It really is.
And I understand Frank's had injuries this season, but at the end of the day, the players he has had available, should be good enough to implement what he's trying to do.
Injuries should not come into the conversation here whatsoever.
Exactly, I agree.
It shouldn't.
Because for me, as I've said even last year, it's not necessarily about the players that are out, it's the players you have available. And he's got good players available. Last season, we were playing Forster in goal, Dragoshin and Gray at centre-back. Like
Ben Davis.
Like the players he had available were shite. Now I know he's got injuries. I understand Solanke's out. I understand Kulusevski's out. I understand Madison's out.
No
and they would make a difference. They're good players. Don't get me wrong. But who has he got available? He's got Xavi available. He's got Kudus available. He's got Moani at the moment available. He's got players in the front line who are available to do a hell of a lot better than what we're doing right now. I was looking into yesterday the damning statistics about where we are as a team in terms of the underlying data, right? We are worse than the 17th place team statistically. That's including the injury crisis. That's including when we phoned in the league last season. We are worse than that team. I know we're 10th at the moment, but in terms of how we're performing, last season we were on average making 1.55 xG and conceding 1.67. This season we're creating 0.92 a game on average xG and conceding 1.43. We are, and if you look at the expected points, we're like 17th at the moment, 18th. I actually think the xG difference is somewhere like 18th. We are worse than when we were last season under Ange. How mad is that? How can you be worse than that team last season who had the injury crisis and phoned in? We didn't even care about the league, and we're worse than that. We're worse than the team who phoned in the league.
Yeah.
How mad? That's crazy to me. It's insane. How can you be worse?
The reality is, it is only 13 games into a season. I know it's like a fairly large sample size because he's managed over 20 games.
20
now.
games, 13 in the league.
Yeah, 20 games in total. And only you can count on your hand which ones that we're very, really happy with. There is a case to say, look, I think we're between a rock and a hard place now with what we do and what the hierarchy do now. And I genuinely believe like they've got no choice but to stick with it. What are they going to do? Like seriously, they have to stick with it.
I would stick with it just because of a lack of a clear alternative. But we're not really sticking with it because of anything Frank deserves at the moment.
I think we stick with it, and you make the soundings to Poch for the end of the season if things going this way. Like, what else can we do?
I think not necessarily Poch. I mean, although I would take Poch, but I think we have to start sounding out new managers at the moment. We'll start sounding out potential replacements because I think this is going nowhere and going nowhere very quickly. He seems to. I think the big problem with Frank, and the big problem he's run into, is when he was at Brentford, he had the time on the training pitch to change it and implement new ideas, and he could basically focus a whole week on a game. So he could put a plan together, and just work on that plan for a whole week. Well, a completely free week, right? To work on certain things. At Tottenham, he's literally getting a day in between games to work on things. And he's never going to be able to implement different systems, different things and change up when he's got so little time on the training ground to change all these things. Unless maybe you wait till we're out of the Champions League near the end of the season and then we go to 1 game a week and then maybe he can start to do that. But it's a hell of a long time to wait, until, and is that where we want to be? Is that, I think... And to be fair, he did have pre-season, so he did have time to do it then, but obviously he struggled to really implement it.
Yeah, but we actually started the season well, though, didn't we? Like that PSG game, that Man City are in the first 3 games of the season. And, those two were like probably 2 of our best performances of the season.
Yeah.
But look, the biggest problem comes when players lack belief and when players are not buying into what you want to do. And if that is the case, like, we're not going to be able to change 10, 15 players to suit what the manager needs and manager wants. The manager's going to be the fall guy here. Mm-hmm. And at this moment in time, from what he's shown, that's the way it's going to, and he's going to get what he deserves because he's not managing this football club in the manner in which he should be managing this football club. And as hard as it's to say, then we're probably going to be on a manager merry-go-round at some point. Maybe in the summer, but yeah, it's just hard to take. It really is hard to take.
At the beginning of the season, you were very confident. You said Frank is levels above Ange. Do you still believe that? I
mean, it's 13 games in, so I don't know, man.
Levels,
absolute levels. If you put Frank in our Europa League run, he would have won it.
Would you say, do you still believe he's levels above Ange?
I still think he's a better manager than Ange. But right now, he's not proving to me anything I said about him. He's proving me the opposite right now. So I can't sit here and and try and defend him anymore. I just can't do it because he's not showing me anything that deserves my defending. Everything that he's showing to me is that he's not fit to manage his football club. That's the reality.
Sank says, how did Ange do it for us? You know what's funny? Ange's Forest is better than what we are right now. That's the truth. Ange's Forest was a better team when you look
Frank's
at
Tottenham won more than Ange's Forest.
He had 5 games. He had 5 games. What's funny is you look at the stats, he was better. Ange's Forest was better, statistically.
Not better in terms of results.
After 5 games, yeah, but from the underlying day, he was. Mad.
Yeah, but look, I think all this stuff about Ange this, Ange that, Ange is gone, man. Everyone just needs to shut up about Ange. Like, there's no point talking about Ange. Like, he's gone. He's not coming back. And he finished 17th last season under bad circumstances, yeah. But just because you know, sacking Ange, in my opinion, was probably the right decision. Hiring Frank, as much as I said it was the right decision at the time, as it stands, it might be the wrong decision.
But was sacking Ange to hire Frank the right decision?
I don't think it has. That's not the question here. The question is, sacking Ange was probably the right decision, but hiring Frank might have been the wrong decision. Like, just because Ange, you know, he finished 17th last season, he won a cup, great. I think if we would have kept on with Ange Postecoglou, and you know, he might have done well, but in my opinion, he probably would have got sacked at some point during this season. So maybe we should have gone for a different manager, but we just got to ride it out with Frank. What can we do?
I think, yeah, well, look, we've laid our bed at the moment. We've kind of, I think the evidence suggests I think we've made a big mistake with the appointment of Frank to be, like, in terms of how he's trying to get us to play and how he's got us set up. But at the moment, we've put ourselves in a bit of a corner because we sacked Ange after winning a trophy. We've appointed him as part of this big rebuild, and like he's like seen as like a big part of this process. He's seen as like he's seen as a part of that rebuild, hiring Thomas Frank. So if I think the hierarchy are going to do everything they can to basically avoid it looking like a massive mistake that what we've done here.
Yeah.
Frank. So I think they're going to have to give it as much time as possible. I don't think they want that on their heads and part of this. It's embarrassing to do all these things, right? You appoint Vinay, you appoint Land, you do this whole hullabaloo about how we're changing and how all the processes are changing and we're going different directions and blah blah blah. 10-point processes, 50 manager list, and you land with Frank, and you're staring down. You're looking at the possibility of throwing that away after 6 months. And that would be hugely embarrassing if that's the case. So I think they are just going to give it time, to give him as much time as possible to try and turn it around.
Yeah, and I think that's the right thing to do. Just give it every chance possible for it to work. Look, I do think Frank is a good manager. I think he did prove that at Brentford. If he can he take that into Tottenham Hotspur, into a bigger club? The jury's definitely out on that now. Like I was convinced that he would be able to, but I said to you after the Chelsea game, I think I said to you that, you know, I'm starting to question Frank more than ever, and now it's even more than that. It's getting more and more every game. So
the thing is, he's a good manager, but there are plenty of good managers for that level. I'm not saying everyone could do what Frank did at Brentford, but look at Keith Andrews. He's seemed to be doing all right at Brentford.
Yeah.
I'm just saying just because you're a good manager at that level does not mean you're good enough to take that step up and manage a team going for bigger things and going for top 6. And in fact, the data suggests it's almost unlikely that ever happens.
Most almost managers, unlikely.
Huh? Well, it's almost. I was going to say almost impossible. I think it's a bit too harsh, but it's very unlikely, put it that way, that they ever do make a step up. It's very rare. Like only Pochettino, and has done it really to a really good standard. Most managers really struggle and are gone very quickly.
Brendan did it to a decent standard.
He didn't. Like when he first got there, they finished like 8th in his first season. They then bottled the league in the second and then finished 8th again.
Yeah. But like he brought Liverpool up to title challenge, which they weren't before, and then he went to Leicester and did an incredible job at Leicester.
He did, and then got them relegated. But that's not him making a step up at Leicester. That's him.
Yeah, but he was at Swansea before Liverpool.
He was at Swansea before Liverpool. Yeah. But I'm saying it's rare. For every let's say Brendan's in the good pile. For every Brendan and Poch, there's about 5 Potters and Hodgsons and other managers. Like, most of these mid-table managers who do a good job aren't actually good enough to make the step up. They're just good enough for that level.
Maresca
was in the Championship, but he's very young. We don't know that.
He's doing very well. Yeah,
he's doing very well.
Yeah, so you could probably say he's another example of that's handled the step up pretty well.
Yeah, but that was his first job. He's done well though. But again, he played a different brand of football, a brand of football, an attacking brand of football.
Yeah, and
he was a disciple of Pep, isn't he?
It's mad, isn't it? That title race is Pep and 2 disciples of Pep. It's ridiculous. Eddie Howe is another one.
Yeah, I'm saying that yes, you're naming these managers, but for every one of those, there's about 5 others who failed. Like, it's more common they fail than they make the step up.
Yeah,
and that's why I was very conscious of looking at the football he plays at Brentford, and not. This is why I was looking at that and thinking, we have to judge. It's not necessarily judging on how he did in terms of how many points he got. It's judging on how he played. And if we want to bring that football to Tottenham and not expecting him to come to Tottenham and not play the way he did at Brentford.
But even so, like, the football that he played at Brentford was still a lot better than the football that he's playing here now. Like, he still created a high number of chances. Where are these chances? Even in a game where it's able for us to counter-attack. Like, yesterday wasn't one of those games. We still can't create chances.
Yeah, because whenever Brentford, whenever he played against teams who stopped him, who didn't give him space in behind, he did struggle. And that's most of the games at Tottenham.
Yeah.
So we should have seen that. We should have noticed that.
That didn't get past the 10-point process, did it?
Apparently not. But I don't understand the thought process of hiring Frank and saying, okay, we're going to hire you based on the job you did at Brentford, but not based on the football you did at Brentford, because we already played different football at Tottenham. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think, he must have sold the club that he wanted to play a certain brand of football, and it's not relating on the pitch right now. But it's just a hard time, isn't it, man? It's such a hard time. The home fans are getting more and more toxic as the games wear on. So there will be surely there's going to be a breaking point at some point. You would think so.
We're nearly there. We have players booing a player for making a mistake. We have a player after the game suggesting we shouldn't clap the fans because of it. We're definitely on our way there.
Yeah.
Boiling over. Boiling over.
Yeah. Well, that is not even just a review of Spurs' shit show over situation. We'll move straight on to player ratings and start off with Vicario. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 2. Look, the reality is he barely had to make a save in the game. What I've given him the rating on is basically the moment which put us 2-0 down with 5 minutes gone. It's like ridiculous. Like, what top level goalkeeper does that? Like, comes out so far and loses the ball in the way he does. He had so many opportunities to clear the ball as well, and I'm just like, Stell's here shouting, get rid, and he dilly-dallies, and it ends up with a Fulham player, and he had a lot to do, that Fulham player, to knock it in from where he did, but still, you can't do that. You just cannot do that. It's absolutely shocking from Vicario.
Yeah, obviously that's what his game will be remembered for. It's absolutely shambolic. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know if he's trying to be brave and play out from that situation, or I don't know if he's just trying to clear his lines and he gets it all wrong because he's on his left foot. The guy has no composure. He gets a rush of blood to the head, and that's my biggest problem with him, and always has been. I think it's what is people love him for it because he shows passion and he goes for things, and I think that's one of his biggest strengths, but it's also his biggest weakness. He doesn't know when to calm down. He doesn't know when to do the smart thing, and he always has a rush of blood to the head, and you see it when the ball comes to him. He doesn't have any composure. He should have just put out for a throw. Any keeper in that situation puts out for a throw. I think he's trying to be brave. I also have to say, I don't know what the hell defenders are doing at that point as well, because why the hell is no one getting back on the line? Why the hell is everyone just watching the ball go over their heads? And like, Dancer was actually actively stepping up
Yeah.
There's no keeper in goal. Get on the line. If he gets on the line, that's actually easily cleared. And maybe we don't concede in that situation. But I don't know what is a brain dead moment for everyone, but obviously especially for Vicario, who caused the whole situation. I don't like to see the boos for him. I thought that was horrible. In fact, when I left the game yesterday, when I left the ground, I saw his parents, and they just looked inconsolable. I felt so bad for them. And, you know, we know that they've been, obviously, part of the Spurs away fan base now for the last 2 years since he's been here, and they've been such a big part of it, and it's really hard to see them like that. So I felt awful, and he did front up after, so fair play to him. But yeah, it was a terrible moment.
Pedro Porro up next. 3s all round for Pedro. Yeah, I thought Pedro, I mean, in that first half, I thought he was absolutely horrific. His passing was poor. He was getting done time and time again. He was just hampering us, literally. It was like he was playing against us for 45 minutes, seriously. And that moment as well where Van der Ven had to save his bacon, like, what are you doing? Like, seriously, he's on the edge of our own box, literally one-on-one with an attacker. And he's losing the ball. Like, how are you losing the ball there? It's just such a bad error. Credit to him. He dusted himself up at half-time, and I think he got a lot better in the second half, and was one of the key reasons why we looked a lot better in those opening 20 minutes of the second half. But that first half was shocking, and you know what? I've seen some really poor performances from Pedro Porro this season, and I'm not sure what to make out of them, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought he was really poor as well. I struggled to deal with Chukwueze. I thought Chukwueze was getting a lot of joy out of him. Obviously for the first goal, and for the moment where Van der Ven cleared it from the last man tackle for the open goal. It was well. His passing woeful, just going long, lacking accuracy, and he seemed to be getting really frustrated as well on the pitch. He was a lot better in the second half. He was linking up with Kudus a lot better, and he seemed to have a lot more energy as well in that second half. I don't know if something flipped, and should have had an assist when he laid it on the plate for Xavi, who had his shot blocked. But his crossing seemed to be a bit better in that second half. Had his corners as well, but unfortunately the damage was done, and it was another really poor display from Pedro Porro. And as well, you point to the fact he had a bit of a thing after the game as well with Bergval. Not a good look.
Kevin Danso up next. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. I thought what really frustrated me with Danso, which frustrates me a lot, is his inability to just play a pass out the back. I thought it was so frustrating. More times than not, it was going to a Fulham player, it was going out play. It was just like so frustrating with Danso. And also his defending has really taken a turn for the worse in the last couple of weeks since he's been playing. I was like, I don't know what's going on with Danso. He doesn't seem to be this like brick at the wall and aerial monster that we've seen pretty much every other time he's played. These last few performances from Danso have been pretty shocking.
Yeah, I think second half he was a bit better in terms of just being a bit more dominant, keeping Tottenham on the front foot. But I thought first half a bit all over the place again, and I thought Jimenez was getting a lot of joy out of him actually, and he wasn't tracking him, he wasn't getting close to him, and Jimenez was holding the ball up, easily playing other players into play, and his passing was poor down so as well. I didn't like what I saw from him.
Mickey Van der Ven, 8s all round. Mickey was pretty much the only one that comes out of this game with a lot of credit in the bank. Like, he saved 2 certain goals on his own in the first half. It could have very easily been 4, maybe even 5-0 to Fulham at half time, and it was basically just him on his own. That was that tackle from that Pedro Porro mistake was one of the best tackles I've ever seen. Like, seriously, it was. Yeah, it really was. It was incredible. It really was. And in the first half, I was saying at half time, he's the only one that is playing well, or the only one that looks like he even wants it. So credit to him for keeping up his standards. He must be looking around and just being like, what am I even doing here?
He seemed sick of it at the end of the game as well. Another one. He seems to be, I'm getting worried about that situation. If things continue, he might be getting, other clubs looking at him, and itchy feet 100%, because he's keeping up his standards every week, yet the shit show around him is really laying him down. He was brilliant, I thought, for the most part in this game. Apart from a few loose passes, I thought he was really, really good. Not only did he do that tackle, but he also blocked a header from Jimenez as well, which was goal bound, and that saved us from a moment which was really bad. And I thought in the second half we sustained pressure a lot. First of all, due to Danso's aerial dominance, and also any passing behind Van der Ven just mopping up and making sure we retained possession, and we were able to kind of keep the momentum going on Fulham. So a brilliant performance from Mickey.
Destiny Udogie up next, 4s all round for Destiny. It was a poor performance from him. He was trying to get up and down that left-hand side, and he was getting a little bit of joy. But I felt like Destiny, whenever he got into like decent areas, he had a bit of a Jed Spence about him and kept checking back and tracking back, and ultimately attacks started to break down on that side. And yeah, there was just nothing positive in that Destiny display, unfortunately. And look, I get what you're saying in the review. You're saying he's trying to do a lot on his own, which is down to tactics at the end of the day. But individually, I thought he was pretty poor.
Yeah, I felt for him because I don't think he had any support. Like when Porro goes forward, he's got Kudus in front of him. He can overlap. Like Udogie gets the ball and he's got literally no one in front of him. He's left all by himself. So he's checking back because he's got nowhere else to go. He can't really take everyone on. He's not that kind of player. He needs space to run into. He needs a player to be drawn out. So I did feel for him. But yeah, he wasn't good. I mean, defensively, I don't think he did much wrong, but you got to say for the goal, that's harsh to say it's his fault, but obviously the ball was going to Wilson and he slips at the crucial moment. I actually think if he doesn't slip, he might block the shot. But unfortunately, just as the ball's going to Wilson, he slips and allows Wilson to get the shot off, and obviously it costs us a goal. So that's obviously a moment he's not blameless in. And he just wasn't as impactful as he could have been in this game. But I don't necessarily think it's his fault. I guess he takes part of the blame, but I think you look at the situations he's in and he's just completely isolated. So, yeah, it wasn't a good game from him.
Yeah. João Palhinha up next, 4s all round for João. I thought he just got completely overrun in midfield. João Palhinha was like really worrying what I saw from him. Like he was chasing shadows all game. I thought Fulham's midfield completely dominated him. He looked completely lost, weak in the challenge, lethargic display. On the ball, we know what he brings, which is, not much. But off the ball, I thought that was his worst display in a Spurs shirt.
He was asked to be like the main guy progressing the ball, and he just wasn't able to do it. He was just passing it sideways. He found it really difficult to progress the ball. It's not really his game, and I thought he was a bit all over the place on the ball. And I actually think mobility-wise, Iwobi and Sander Berg were getting the better of him. I think it contributed as well because I think Bergval and Gray were very unsure about where to be on the pitch. I think they really struggled about what their jobs were. But I think Palhinha really suffered for it as well. I think he had too much to cover.
Archie Gray up next. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 5. Didn't really build off the back of that performance that he showed in midweek against PSG, where I thought he was brilliant. In this game, his passing was pretty poor. Moves kept breaking down when he was trying to progress the ball up the pitch in the first half. So the first half wasn't great. I do feel like in the second half, though, he did dust himself down, and I thought the performance was a lot better, and I thought he got taken off maybe at the wrong time because I thought he was just about growing into the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he struggled badly in that first half, to be honest, losing the ball in key positions. Again, I thought physically was getting a bit dominated, unfortunately. I hate to say it because I thought he was so good on Wednesday, but he did struggle badly in that first half. Again, I think a lot of it might be confusion. It's on Wednesday, he seemed to be more to the left-hand side, linking up with Bergval, and they seemed to find some moments together. Yet he was on the right-hand side on this point of the midfield, and he seemed to be unsure about where to be. Second half, he did start to get to grips with the game, but I don't know whether Frank felt, after having played, did he play 90 in midweek, or having played, started in midweek, maybe he couldn't play too much more than a 60 in this one. But it was unfortunately got taken off just as he was getting into the game.
Yeah, I said it at the time to Stella on the watch long. I think it was a bad decision to take off Gray because I thought he was just about growing into the game. But anyway, Lucas Bergval up next, 6s all round. First half, not much in there from Bergval. Looked a little lost as the rest of our midfield did, but second half I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I really did. It was a two polar opposite displays from Lucas Bergval, and in the second half he was that real driving force in the middle of the park for us, really aggressive in the tackle as well, winning the ball back countless amount of times, and linking up well with the likes of Kudus and Porro as well. So I thought Bergval, second half, kind of made up for that poor first half performance from him, and then he got taken off.
Another one. I thought we lost so much when he went off, to be honest. I know he was tiring a bit, but he was the only one passing the ball forward and actually looking to have a bit of vision. Obviously, he got the assist for Kudus' goal as well. Yeah, first half he did struggle. Again, and like I've said to every player, I feel like he was really confused. Was he supposed to be helping out Doggy on the left-hand side? Was he supposed to be helping out Paulini and Gray in the middle? Was he a centre mid in a 4-3-3, or was he a kind of left attacking mid in a 4-2-2-2? I don't even know if he knew, to be honest, in that first half what he was supposed to be doing. He seemed really confused, and he was really struggled to get into the game. But look, he tried to take responsibility in the half time. He was leading, the players in a sort of huddle, and he was the one taking responsibility to having words with the players. At full time, he was one trying to go over to clap the fans, although Porro was shouting at him. He was trying to, take responsibility, and I like to see that. It's crazy that a 19-year-old is the one doing it and not the senior players, but. He was much better in the second half before got taken off.
You know what you're saying about the taking responsibility as a 19-year-old? Last season, we saw similar traits, not from him, but Matisse Tell. Matisse Tell was a lone player last year, and he was the one taking responsibility, going into the fans and trying to talk to them and trying to get them to stick with the team. So it's not like the first kind of example that we've seen of that in this squad. Next up, Mohamed Kudus. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. I thought first half he was barely in the game. I thought he saw a lot of the ball, but he was just holding on to it too long, trying to do everything on his own, and ultimately lost the ball a lot. Second half, he really came alive, and for that 15-20 minute period, he was unplayable. They just could not deal with him. He was taking it past men easily, getting crosses in the box, scored a fantastic goal, unbelievable finish from him. And then I thought after that, after the changes came and everything like that, he wasn't at the same intensity and kind of petered out the game a little bit. But for that 20-minute period, he was fantastic.
Yeah, I did feel like he was our biggest threat in the first half without doing too much. He was the only one getting to the byline, trying to get crosses in. His crossing was really poor, I thought, actually, at the end of the day. I think he really struggled to find a man. I don't know whether that's how Fulham set up or us not having enough players in the box, but his crossing was very poor for a lot of for the whole game, to be honest. But he was driving force to getting us back in the game. I think he linked up really well with Porro, scored a brilliant goal, and was really hard to deal with. Even though his crossing was poor, he was very hard to deal with for the Fulham players for a lot of the game. So pretty much our whole attacking plan was on his back throughout the whole game.
Kolo Muani, Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. I really like Muani's attitude, to be honest, and application. I thought he was trying to press from the front. He was being aggressive up against the Fulham defenders. I thought there was, it was hard for him to show much quality in the game, but what he was doing with his work rate was top notch, to be honest. And I think we got a good player here in Muani, to be honest. And I think probably the best number 9 we got at the club.
Yeah, I actually thought even in the first half when we were awful, he was the only one showing a little bit of quality, holding the ball up.
He was showing fight, players,
bit of fight. There was a moment where there was a lost cause running into the corner, and I can't remember who was right back, but Tete. Looked like Tete was favourite for it, and he just sprinted and he was able to nip the ball ahead of Tete and sustain an attack. But unfortunately, no one was really on his wavelength for a lot of the game. Unlucky on a couple of occasions not to score. Had a back heel, he had a shot blocked as well. He was also winning quite a few headers when long balls were played to him. So I thought he showed a lot more than anyone else did on the pitch, and was unlucky that everyone else was just so bad.
Yeah. And Richarlison, the last of the starting 11, Sim gives him a 4.
I actually gave him a 3.
Oh, well, we give him a 3 all round for Richarlison. There was just literally nothing in that game for Richarlison. I barely remember him touching the ball. Again, a lot of time on the floor, as he always does, and he just did nothing to impact that game. Literally nothing.
It was a disaster class, I have to say. I'm a big fan of Richie compared to a lot of other people, but he was shocking yesterday. There was a number of times where actually some good passes were played into him, and he just miscontrolled it and losing the ball, constantly losing the ball. I don't know if he actually ever kept the ball yesterday. It was atrocious. Obviously wasn't a goal threat as well. Wasn't able to find any moments in the box. Probably should have been hooked at half time. It was shocking from Richarlison.
Yeah. Wilson Odebear, 5s all round for Wilson. I thought with Wilson, he looked a bit weak on the ball, to be honest. I thought he got shoved off it a few times pretty easy. But he did show a bit of strength, actually, to win a header at the back post on one occasion. But he didn't offer anywhere close to the threats that we know he can offer. I mean, when you're looking at that cameo compared to the cameo he had when he came on, we brought on a doggy out on that left-hand side. I can't remember which game it was. He looked brilliant in that game, constantly. United. Yeah, United, constantly a threat out on that left-hand side. Unfortunately, he couldn't replicate that.
Yeah, he threatened to threaten, but never really threatened. He looked bright, got on the ball, got to the byline, but unfortunately none of his crosses ever beat the first man. He won a few corners. He added a bit of just energy and kind of a bit of directness, but never really actually created anything significant.
Javi Simmons, 5s as well for him, and yeah, he must be thinking, what the hell have I done joining Tottenham Hotspur at this moment in time. He comes on and look, he added a bit of extra kind of guile to his play, but for the most part he was frustrating because I thought he lost the ball so many times. But at least he had a go, he had a shot. That's about it. Yeah,
nearly scored, but I actually think he
should have scored, to be honest. Well, it was a good block.
He did struggle to really impact the game. Got tackled on a few occasions. He also did this really weird moment. I can't remember when it was. He gets the ball from a throw and just boots it right up in the air. I don't know what he was doing on that occasion. I don't know what he was trying there, but that was a really odd moment. He just seemed a bit out of sorts when he came on the pitch.
Bentancur up next, 5s all round for Bentancur. Again, a bit of bad, a bit of good. I thought, he kept the ball moving a bit better than Paulinho did from the central areas, but there were a few bad things I saw and just how easy it was to rob the ball off him, so pretty poor.
Yeah, I think the ball was moving a bit better when he came on. We started to move the ball a bit sleeker, but yeah, unfortunately, as the game went on, they started to get a bit more advantages in the middle in terms of Smith Rowe and Lukic. Like, they were starting to boss it again late on, so he wasn't able to really sustain anything.
And last but not least, Thomas Frank. So against Arsenal, I gave him a 1. He gets a 2 this time. The positives that he managed to muster up a bit of a better start to the second half, and I thought we were pretty good for 20 minutes. And then I thought he made changes that hampered us and took the wind out ourselves. And it just lost our momentum because I thought we were looking really good and it looked like the goal was coming, and then the goal came, and then it just kind of petered out. But the setup at the beginning of the game, when I first saw the lineup, I was like, all right, this is a good lineup. If we're going for the same system at PSG with these players, I think I was fairly happy with it. But then when the game started, I was just like, what system are we playing? Who's playing where? I was just completely lost watching that team, and that is down to the instruction. He's not getting his instructions across to the players, and that is woeful if you're managing a Premier League football club. So the tactics were all wrong. The changes I thought were poor, and the traits that we're seeing from the manager, the traits that we're seeing fester into this team are nowhere near good enough. And he needs to take a long, hard look at himself. He needs to change things quick. And if he doesn't, he's going to be the next of a long list of managers at this football club that are going to be out the door soon.
Yeah, the players are clueless. The players seem to be lacking any sort of idea of what formation we're playing. He's tinkering way too much. He can't seem to get any sort of stability in this team. We're not creating any chances. We're creating the 19th amount of chances in the league. We're open at the back. We're conceding, I think, 16th or 17th most chances in the league. We're losing to teams who can't get in. Bournemouth have only won away when apparently, and it's against us. Fulham have won away when it's against us. Wolves have won away point, that's against us. So he is really struggling to get any sort of performance at home. It's really, really worrying in that sense. He tinkered so much in this game. tinkered the lineup. I think he's changing it from game to game formation. The changes impacted the game negatively. He managed the game horribly. We don't seem to have any mode of attack apart from getting a cross in the box. I don't blame him too much for the individual errors, albeit he's not blameless, but I don't put it all on him. But what I do put on him is our inability to look like we can attack with this team. And that is been a consistent theme and one that he doesn't seem to know how to fix. I also have to say in the press conference, it was the first time I saw him getting quite short with the journalists, and he seems to be a guy. He cuts a figure very under pressure at the moment.
Yeah.
And he was getting agitated for the first time with the press, which is not something we've seen so far. So I wonder if we'll see more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the more these performances continue, the harsher the critics are going to get, and the more spiky he's going to get. That's just the way it goes. But that is our player ratings. Let's get into a couple of super chats before we move on. Where's the first one? Here. So Magid Rakala says Sim is totally responsible for our loss. Not one home win with Frank. Is our manager in the league. Accept responsibility, Sim.
Well, what do I have to take responsibility for that? What did I do? Why me? What's he implying?
I have no clue.
What's he trying to say? Not one home win with Frank as our manager. What? Nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. Not my manager.
Michael Hellman says, can we talk about our defence? I thought Frank keeps clean sheets. Also, our set pieces have evaporated. ENIC 2.0 and V9 need to correct the narrative. Otherwise, they'll be the same as the Levy crew. I mean, look, it's hard. I mean, look, they are the ones that appointed the manager with V9 and Johan Lang, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to put too much on the hierarchy apart from one managerial appointment, and Levy was heavily involved in that as well. So we need to see how things progress.
100%. In terms of the narrative that the narrative that he's improved our defence, I mean, I just don't think it's true. Well, what I would say is when we had our back line the last 2 seasons, we've been better defensively than what I'm seeing now in the last few games.
Yeah. So, but, I mean, we looked better defensively at the beginning of the season. We looked really good defensively for the first four few games of the season, and now it's just gone to pieces. Joseph Vukovic says, I'm coming from Canada to watch the next North London derby with my father. At the moment, I feel like I've just wasted my money.
Oh, dear. I really hope... is it next month, the North London derby again?
I think it's in. Is it in February?
January. Is it
January?
Oh God, not looking forward to that one. I'll pray for you. I'll pray for all of us.
Nina Chow says Paulinho is not a starting mid. He literally avoids receiving the ball. Besides his tackling, he's useless. A CDM should be connecting passes. Yeah, it's not wrong, to be honest. I don't know. He's not useless, but.
Again, to be fair, we spoke about it on Wednesday. We looked a lot better on the ball without him. Is that something we have to really consider when we talk about these home games where we're asked to have a lot of the ball? Should he be playing at all?
And also, we actually, in a weird way, look better in attack without Kudus as well.
It's also true.
Even though he was brilliant in 20 minutes, but I'm talking about as a team.
Yeah, it's something we have to think about the balance of the team.
Michael Hellman says, do we even have a best 11? So much inconsistency. Well, if we do have a best 11, Frank don't know it, that's for sure.
No. I'm not surprised he doesn't know it because, again, he is new to the job, so that doesn't surprise me, but because he's got to work that out. But still, even without knowing your best 11, you should be able to, create a lot more chances than we are. Yeah.
And Nin Chao says, it's time to develop Sarr into a proper CDM. I mean,
I like that, but
Michael Hellman says ENIC can Levy right after the transfer window closed. Moves could have been made when there were midsummer chatter about his departure. Come on, you Spurs. Yeah, but nobody actually knew what was going on. So I mean, Levy didn't even know he was leaving, if you're led to believe the reports. But I don't know.
I don't know what he's trying. What's he trying to say?
He's saying that Moves could have been made when they were midsummer chatter. I don't know, moves for what? To be honest, I don't even know.
I don't know.
Joseph Vukovic says, question is, will the players want to ride it out? Well, at this moment in time, there's nothing to suggest that they will.
Yeah, that's a worry as well at the moment, that maybe the players might use their power and demand him out. I don't know if that's ever gonna come. I don't know if the players have the balls to do that, to be honest. They seem, a lot of them have really weak mentalities.
Victor Anden says Tottenham have had 4 through balls the entire season, lowest in the league by far.
That's just that number 4 has just been there for like a month now. We haven't had a through ball in a month, I swear. It's ridiculous. Can someone just play the ball through to someone?
And he's just become a member as well, so welcome to the We Are Tottenham family. Happy family we are. And Ninja again with another super chat says, Ben, how is Kudus holding on to the ball too long? There's no movement to pass to. Let's stop the agenda, making it seem like he's a selfish player.
This guy again, Andrew, he hates.
There is no agenda against Kudus. I just felt in the first half he held on to the ball a bit too long and it broke down a few attacks. Not to mention, I also said that in the second half he was bloody brilliant and fantastic. So
sometimes he does. That's just the player he is. Like, look, sometimes you've got to accept that in players. Every player has their flaws, and that's one of his flaws. I think that's been one of his flaws in other clubs as well. He does hang on to the ball a bit too long, but that's like, I agree. I think part of the problem is probably he has a lack of options, and maybe he feels like he's got to do it himself. But sometimes he does have the options, and he just waits that little, because football is all about quick decisions, and those half seconds make a difference. Sometimes it's a half a second too long, and that can break a move down, and that's it.
Yeah.
Not to say he's a bad player. He's by far our best attacker and our highest performing attacker.
Yeah, exactly.
But he actually has been not on great form, to be honest.
Yeah.
At the moment.
But it was good. It was good to see him perform the way he did in the second half, because we haven't seen that.
Apparently, he hasn't got an assist in 2 months, and that was his first goal since October.
All right, let's go and see how the internet did react to the game. BLTHFC saying this is a major coaching issue, and don't tell me it's Bundesliga tax when he spun Rice to score in the European semi-final against all Prem players. So what are we seeing here?
So the red is when he was in the Bundesliga, and the blue is when he was at Spurs. I mean, it tells a story about. You could argue if you want, this is just him adjusting to the Premier League and stuff, but I would heavily argue that I think Frank doesn't really know how to use him, or he's not using him right. Yeah,
which is strange, because he got really good play out of Damsgaard in the number 10, and he was like making them tick, and he was creating loads of chances for them. And
but that also that took about 18 months.
It's true, but he did have a lot of injuries, didn't he?
Yeah, Damsgaard. He did. Yeah, but for about 18 months he was really struggling.
Yeah.
And then he finally
didn't he join Brentford and then just had a really long injury straight off the bat?
I think he joined after he had a long injury. He had an ACL, then joined Brentford, I think.
But then he had another injury when he joined Brentford, didn't he?
Not an ACL.
No, not an ACL, but it's still a big one.
Potentially, I can't remember.
Anyway, this is Pedro Porro's statement after the game, and he says, football is emotions. In football, as in life, there can always be mistakes. What I will not tolerate is hearing disrespect from the fans to my teammates, hence my frustration at the end of the game. And we will get up, we will remind you 6 months ago, everything was so bad, but in the end, it's not how it begins, it's how it ends. To the true Spurs fans, I love you.
What do you make of that statement?
I mean, I'm not too sure what to make out of it. And yeah, look, he's talking about trying to play on the heartstrings of the Europa League, and look, everyone was delighted when we won the Europa League, but he was still part of a team that finished 17th in the league last season, and in terms of the worst Premier League campaign we've ever had. So he needs to buck up his ideas. Like, never mind him going at fans or anything, like, his performance on the pitch is not good enough in recent weeks. There's been some worrying traits that have been creeping into his game, and he needs to look at himself before he looks at anyone else, that's for sure.
After he said what he said in midweek, or he take this mentality and this whatever he said into the game on the weekend, and then this happens on the weekend. It's really a horrible look.
Yeah.
And also he's not apologising.
No.
There's no apology there.
No.
So should he be apologising?
I I don't really know if he should be apologising or not. I don't really care if he apologises or not. I just want him to.
Hearing apologies.
Yeah, I've heard apologies time and time again from members of this squad.
Again.
Yeah, I know. He seems to apologise after every game, but with Pedro Porro, just make the performances right on the pitch, and we won't care about anything else that happens. That's where I'm at with it.
But I guess he's calling for patience, isn't he? When he kind of says 6 months ago was bad, but you know, at the end of it we got a trophy. Is that what he's trying to say here? I guess, you know, it's bad now, but if you stick with it.
Difference is we're in the Europa League last year, we're in the Champions League this year. What are we going to win?
FA Cup.
Yeah, FA Cup, which we got to beat the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea to get to.
Oh, they might go out to other teams.
But all in all, if you're going to win the FA Cup, you're going to have to come across some really good teams to get there. You know, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. It's unlikely you won't face at least one of them.
Arsenal beat Wigan and Hull in their
they just got very. Look, we might get very lucky and face just Championship teams all the way there. You never know, but you know, we'll probably have to face one of these teams at least. We Are Tottenham TV tweeted Spurs XG check-in. Last season, Spurs averaged 1.55 XG per 90 while conceding 1.67 XG. This season, they're creating just a 0.9 XG per 90 and conceding 1.43 XG. Chance creation and defensive issues still there, and chance creation's down. Big drop-off on both sides of the ball. Worrying trend. Which is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, and I just find it crazy, like, how you can be worse than like, I understand why the team was bad last season, but obviously we still don't want the team to be on that level. And how are you getting worse numbers than that? It's just crazy to me.
Makes no sense.
Like, Frank was, whatever you want to say about Frank, he's obviously brought in to improve us.
Yeah.
And improve it quickly. We're supposed to improve on that standard quite quickly from last season.
But we got worse.
And it's worse. How is that possible? And he sacrificed all this chance creation, whatever, for a more stable defence, and he's not even providing that.
Yeah. So he hasn't even sacrificed it for a stable defence. We don't have a stable defence.
Essentially.
Billy T says it's actually quite impressive to make a 0.01 XG so consistently. So, I mean, I think it was at 40 minutes they showed a stat that we were 0.01 XG on TV, and by the end of the first half, I think it was 0.07 in the end, or maybe, but it was just, yeah, it's just.
I mean, even if you just shut your eyes and punt the ball a few times a game, you're going to get more XG than that. Burnley in one half of football against Arsenal created 0.43. So
there's no excuse for Spurs against anyone. If Burnley can create 0.43 against Arsenal, you know, we should be not struggling to make that against anyone.
It's crazy. It's actually crazy how little we create.
Yeah.
It's mad.
So Vicario comes out after the game and he says, I take full responsibility for the second goal we conceded. Moments like this hurt, especially when the results aren't going our way. Now more than ever, it's time to fight even harder and give everything for this club. And look, at the end of the day, I am sick and tired of hearing apologies, but at least someone that made a mistake during a game comes out and fronts it out. And I respect him for it, but I'm just sick and tired of hearing the apologies, to be honest.
Every game is an apology. But I guess on this occasion, he is the one who has to make an apology, isn't he? Because he is the one that made that bad mistake. But at the end of the day, as much as I was watching your review and you said the game was lost in the first 5 minutes and because we were 2-0 down, fair enough. But we did have 85 minutes. We saw Sunderland come back from 2-0 down against Bournemouth. We saw Leeds come back from 2-0 down against Man City, right, after going 2-0 down early. So is it like, as much as those early mistakes obviously cost us when you look at the result, like, it's not an excuse for not even getting close to getting back in the game.
Yeah, I found really funny. I was watching the vlog that you put together and we went 2-0 down. Dad was like, it's Fulham, they're crap. Of course we're going to get back.
I was like, really? Are you watching us?
Anyway, Billy T says, what have we done? So this is a clip of Ange Postecoglou. Is this an actual clip? Is it AI? Or is it...
people saying it's AI? I don't know. No, I don't think it is. I think it is a real clip because there was someone social media team posted it. I can't remember who it was. He was saying good luck in a final to a team, and then he ended it with "Come on, you Spurs." I don't know why he did that. Unless that bit was AI.
Who is he?
Camersham United saying good luck to Camersham United.
Camersham United. Who are
Then
Camersham
he says,
United?
I don't know, they're just some team.
Caversham United.
Caversham, yeah, maybe.
No idea who they are.
I know someone bumped into him and just asked him to say this message. He ended it with "Come on, you Spurs." I don't know why, but got my feelings all coming back to me.
Look, at the end of the day, it's hard to think like we're any better off right now, because we're clearly not. So that's the damning statement. We finished 17th last year and we're no better off this year, which is crazy. Tappin Tobe says Bournemouth have won one game away from home. Guess where? Fulham have won only one game away from home all season. Guess where? Wolves have 1 point away from home all season. Guess where? Go on and lie to me that we didn't have enough quality to at least compete and create chances in each of these games, let alone win. And that's absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I think the most worrying thing isn't even that we didn't win those games. It's just how we looked in those games and how bad we were and how easily we were beaten or stifled in all of those games.
Yeah.
That's the worrying thing.
True. Football on TNT Sports saying Harry Wilson scored from this angle. It was an unbelievable angle to score from, to be honest. An unbelievable hit from Harry Wilson.
He's got a great left foot. But why is Danso just standing there?
He slipped.
That's what I don't know. That's a doggy.
Oh, Danso.
I'm saying Danso here. He's just there, like, in the box, and he's, like, pushing up. Like, I don't understand why he's not running back to the line and trying to prevent an open goal being scored. It just makes no sense to me.
Absolute shit show, man.
Like, what? It's just brain dead. Where is your danger, like alertness? You know what I mean?
Alta Cop says, imagine a get-out-of-jail free card winning the Europa League to take you back into the Champions League after a catastrophic Premier League season, and then giving that opportunity for a hard reset to a Brentford manager. Club deserves everything it's getting right now. Unambitious as always.
I think I don't like the fact. I don't care that he's Brentford manager. That's not my issue. The issue is if you expected him to bring the football he was playing at Brentford and giving that the rebuild. That is the issue I have. I would have, and it didn't. It never made sense to me doing that. And at the moment, it's not doing very well.
When you actually think about it, it's just like, well, obviously, I think Frank would have sold them a project of that he can play a lot better football than he's playing right now. That's the reality. I don't think he's saying I'm just going to be playing counter-attacking football and defence-first football. The first thing he said when he came in said he wants to play front-footing attacking football. That's what he said. Obviously, that hasn't happened. But, yeah, it's just, I don't even know what to say about it anymore. But the way this club has run...
I'm sure Nuno said the same thing.
And their manager... Yeah, maybe. And their manager search. But it's just like... Why are we always going like flip-flopping from this thing to that thing, back to this thing, back to that thing, back to this thing, back to that thing? Nothing works.
Because we don't have the people... That comes from the people in the top. We don't have clearly good footballing people making the decisions. They don't know what they're doing. You look at Brighton, they lost Potter, they get De Zerbi in, a continuation. They lost De Zerbi, they get Hertzler in, a continuation. They know what they're doing. They've got a good model there. They've got a good hierarchy. Look at even Brentford with Frank. They lost Frank, they put Andrews in, and he knows there's a continuation of what they were doing, right? So these guys got good people at the top making good decisions. They've decided we've got a way of playing, and we're going to put a manager that fits in that. We think we know what we would want, but the people actually making decisions to pick the right people have clearly no clue, or they're not qualified at all to be making these decisions because they keep getting it wrong.
Yeah. Jay Harris says 3 important games for Spurs over the last week, and Javi Simmons started on the bench in all of them. I wasn't completely surprised he didn't start against Arsenal or PSG, but thought he should have today. Which is mad, isn't it? Your big summer signing, along with Mohamed Kudus, our most expensive signing, Javi Simmons, and on the bench for the last 3 games.
I know, it's worrying, isn't it? And he doesn't cut a happy figure. Obviously, no one does really at the moment, but I just hope Frank's not deciding because he's not like big and physical, he can't be in the team. I really hope that's not the case. Yeah,
but you would have thought like Frank's one of the ones that signed off on that signing. I guess, he wasn't our first choice. We tried to go for Morgan Gibbs-White. We tried to go for Eze, and then we fed on Javi Simmons. We fed on Javi Simmons because he was one of the ones available towards the end of the window. But the reality is, in my opinion, he's a very good footballer, very technically gifted footballer. And if you play to his strengths, you'll get the best out of him. And we're just not doing that.
No, absolutely not.
Simon Jimenez says 0.89 XG, 9th game out of 13 in the Premier League where Spurs haven't been able to reach a 1 XG. That is mad, isn't it? That is crazy. 9 out of 13 games, we haven't reached even a 1 XG.
And 1 isn't even like great.
I know. So much talk since my first post about this, but wanting to be proactive coach and play aggressive front foot football, but nothing has actually changed in the last 2 months.
Yeah, it's a horrible trend, and it speaks for itself. I think the problem is the stats are backing up the eye test as well. Some people talk about stat to eye test, but I think they're at the moment they're both in tandem. Fair to say. Very
true. Jake says, ideologically, I agree with the argument that you should stick with a manager and give them time for their project. But if we were to do that, I would have rather done it with the momentum of the European trophy than whatever this has devolved into. Yeah, I mean, look, again, like, it's hard to argue against it right now. It is hard to argue against it, but maybe it's a case of that we did need a change and we've just gone for the wrong manager. Maybe that's also a case, so I don't know.
Yeah, it could be the case. That might well be the case, but if you ask me now, would I rather give season 3 a go than what I'm watching? 100%.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with it. I think if we would have ended up sticking with Ange, I don't think many fans would have had a problem after the Europa League win. But I think once he went, I think a lot of fans just accepted it was probably the right decision. Some fans brought into Thomas Frank, some fans didn't buy into Thomas Frank. But right now, I think everyone's in unison being like, this is nowhere near good enough.
I liked Thomas Frank, and I thought he can come here and do a good job, but I had a lot of reservations about certain things, and all of them have unfortunately come to pass at the moment, but it is only 30
There is no chance you would have thought it would have been this bad, though.
No, not this bad. I thought he would definitely I thought it would just be, not as pretty, but much more effective than what I'm seeing. And the lack of effectiveness has been a big surprise to me, to be honest. I thought he had much more of a plan than just putting a cross in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Too. Vince Regari says, some of the things that were said on here last season were insanely dumb, like genuinely laughable. Like Billy T's responding to Billy T saying, at least these players are finally coached. I said that as well, I think.
That's what a lot of people were saying last year. Oh, these players aren't coached. Well, they coach now?
It doesn't look like it.
Doesn't look like it. They know what they're doing.
Maybe the players are the problem then.
Maybe, but I mean, it's hard to argue that when they all start for their national teams, they're good national teams. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know.
Like, all
when
these
has this club
rubbish?
When has this club ever made sense?
No, never. We never make sense.
Squawk Alive says Tottenham are the first side to attempt 16+ open play crosses in the first half of a Premier League game without any of them finding a teammate since Tottenham themselves versus Bournemouth in October 2022. 18. Who was our manager in October 22? Was that Ange?
No, that would have been Conte.
Conte.
That would have been Conte.
Squawker as well said, only Richarlison has been directly involved in more Premier League goals for Tottenham this season than Mohamed Kudus. Richarlison 7, Kudus 6.
Yeah, Kudus, the goal contribution started quite strong, but they've kind of petered out. But hopefully he can start getting on form. But I think he just needs help. He needs help from the tactics. He needs help from his other players. He's just trying too much. And I think clearly teams are caught onto it. You can see they're doubling up on him. They're getting too few players around him, and I think he needs a lot more help at the moment.
Simon Jimenez says, Sam seems like a good man. Frank is a good coach. Frank is someone I genuinely wanted to see it at this football club. Frank has still not shown me anything that makes me think he's the right coach for Spurs. Frank is starting to run out of time, and you know what? That's kind of where I'm at as well.
Yeah. And I don't like to see Frank how he is in press conferences. Like, he's usually such a positive, upbeat guy, and to see him be snapping at journalists and to see this job grounding him down like it has is sad at the moment.
Well, similar things happened to Angelo at the back end of last season. Like, he was also like a very fun figure in press conferences, and he ended up being a snappy manager, and that happened to him at Forest as well.
And I don't like to see that either.
Yeah, but that just happens to managers under pressure. It's just
I'm not. That was not a comment on Frank. I just don't like to see that. I like he was such an upbeat figure. Like, it's so sad to see. Is my point.
Yeah. And then you tweeted out saying he looks in a state of shock, and this is Johan Lang.
This was him at half time.
Being
He looked like he was contemplating his life choices.
The thing is with Johan Lang, like, he's got a close connection with Thomas Frank. They've worked with each other in the past before he came to Tottenham Hotspur, and I think particularly Johan Lang is going to want to give it as much time as possible.
I know, 100%. It was just a little joke I made, but there's a part of the walk where he like looks down, it's like he's just contemplating everything, like, oh shit, we just got this completely wrong.
And then you posted out the clip as well of Pedro Porro and Lucas Bergval.
Yeah, this is obviously, we've gone over it, but Porro shouting. This is the moment he's like shouting at Bergval, and Bergval's telling him to go clap the fans, and he's not wanting to. A lot of people are commenting as well, potentially, that does it say anything about Frank and how he's around the teammates, but I don't really see much of that. I think if you watch the full clip, he does kind of embrace all the teammates, and they all seem to go in for a high five. So I don't know if there's anything there, but definitely in terms of players trudging off down the tunnel angrily, that seems to start being a common occurrence at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That's a worry.
You know, I was thinking about
snapping at each other and things.
Thinking about Romero as well. It's just like,
I saw Romero. Yeah, he was there on the touchline.
Was it like we convinced him to sign that contract in the summer?
Oh yeah, what do you think he's thinking right now? Like, why the hell did I sign that?
Yeah.
These public displays of just unhappiness are not great at all.
Yeah.
Look, and look, to be fair, you're obviously going to do it when we have lots of, as you have at home. So I'm not expecting the players to be happy, but when they're snapping at each other, when they're doing these things publicly, it's a horrible look.
Billy T says, Ange managed Spurs like they were the best team in the world, and it cost him because we weren't. Thomas Frank manages us like we're Brentford, and it's not working because we aren't. I know which I prefer, but probably middle ground seems sensible. And yeah, I do think there's some validity to that. And also, I was thinking about this last night regarding, sorry, Chelsea were just on attack there. Regarding Ange and Frank with the way they manage this football club. I'm talking about solely what they've been saying in the press. Like, Ange would basically defend Spurs with all his might, and you know, every time you watch his press conferences, you would come away from it like feeling all right about it. Frank, with some of these comments that he's making in the press conferences, they just don't seem right with me, about the 17th comment he made and the way he's managing it. Like, I just don't like some of the ways like Frank's conducting himself in some of these press conferences, making it seem like we're a lot worse than we are.
Yeah, and also how the players supposed to respond to that. A lot of these players obviously were part of the team that finished 17th, but they know what they went through, and obviously they came away with the trophy last season, and to be told, oh yeah, but don't forget you guys finished 17th last season, so if we have a shit performance, it's actually because these players, you know, this is what I've got to deal with. I mean, I like, that is no way for a manager of Tottenham Hotspur to be talking like regardless of their managerial quality, what you got from Ange in his press conference, it would make you dream. Exactly, that's what football was all about.
And what you get from these Frank press conferences being like, oh, we really are shit, aren't we?
And yeah, it was like the breakdown in terms of the 60 games a season. Like, where does yesterday fall under? Is that an average one or is that a really shit one? Because he only says we only get 10.
That was ridiculous comment to make. Like, what is he thinking making these comments? I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't. I kind of understood what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, like, we have during a 60 game season, you generally get like 12 perfect games, like, in terms of you're not basically what he's trying to say is, like, you're not gonna have more than 10 to 12 games a season where you're like winning by 2 or 3 goals. It's usually that's the amount, like, on average, and then you get 30 kind of average games where the games are close, but you know, although the games are close, like, you should be edging them out if your base performance at a certain point. In average performance should be you win the game by a goal or you get a draw, and then you have 10 to 12 games where you're just completely off it, and like sometimes you get a draw out of those games, or sometimes you can shit out 1-0 win, but you're going to lose a lot of those games. That's what he's trying to say. But when you're managing a team like Tottenham Hotspur and you're not explaining yourself in that kind of way, it kind of seems like you're implying we're only going to have 12 games where we're really good, and that's it, really. And the rest of the time, you're just going to have to put up with like average performances or shit performances. And I don't think like Pep or Arteta is like tolerating that. Like, and so to think like that is the standard that we're...
Pochettino would never tolerate that.
And to say that's the standard we have to put up at Tottenham Hotspur is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
I really found odd. Well, I was thinking about this more as well about Frank. I kind of feel like Frank is like the right manager if we would have lost the final. But if having won the final, he's just not the right manager to bring in that circumstance.
I don't even think that's the case.
Yeah, because I think we would have had one game a week. He would have had talented players.
Oh, true. He would have been out of Europe. Yeah.
And as well, I think if we weren't in Europe this season and all we had last season was just 17th and nothing else, then probably right now is a bit more tolerable than what we're suggesting.
I don't think it is. Maybe like the football might have been a bit better, so maybe it would have been tolerable in that sense. But if we were serving this up, then it's not. It's never tolerable.
I just feel like if we would have, I feel like if we would have lost the final, he would have been the right guy. But having won it, I just think it was the wrong appointment.
Squawker says only Wolves have taken fewer points at home in the Premier League this season than Tottenham. 5 points at home all season. Wolves have taken 1.
God. So.
Yeah. Jake Sanders says Tottenham under Thomas Frank are nothing more than a League 2 team. Hope for football, no patterns, no tactics, absolutely no clue.
Well, League 2 teams have been getting better performances against Arsenal than we did.
Yeah.
Port Vale.
Adam Nathan says Pochettino win it high and incisive passing. Mourinho low block and break with numbers. Conte wing back to wing back quickly into forwards. Ange byline cut back, creative overloads. I have absolutely no idea how Frank wants us to create chances. He's completely clueless. Well, I'll tell you how he wants to create chances by spamming crosses into the box. So for Frank, you can put Frank cross spammer.
Cross spammer but we don't get anywhere near the players in the box. It's crazy.
Up to Joe says 9.5. Spurs are averaging just 9.5 shots and 3.2 shots on target per game in the Premier League this season, both of which are the lowest averages on record in a single campaign since 03-04.
So attacking-wise, this team is performing worse than any other team than since records began.
Yeah.
Think of all the teams we've had since then and how many teams were bad and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the worst.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
It's madness. Up to Joe says Tottenham suffered their 10th home defeat of 2025 in the Premier League, which is now their joint most home league defeats in a single calendar year in the club's history, also 10 in 94 and 2003. So our manager in 94, I think, was Ozzy. Our manager in 2003, was it Hoddle?
Hoddle and Pleat.
Hoddle and Pleat, yeah.
We were shocked. We nearly got relegated that year as well.
Another one from Up to Joe says Fulham's 2-0 lead in the 6th minute marks the earliest that Tottenham have ever conceded 2 goals in a Premier League home match. Wow.
And it's also Fulham's first win at our ground in 16 years.
Yeah, mad.
How mad is that? 16 years we lost them 3-0.
Fulham have turned into a bloody bogey team for us.
I know. How has that happened? How have we allowed that to happen?
We've beaten them once in the last 6 games.
How's Fulham the bogey team? It used to be such a standard win. God, like classic 2-0 home win.
Yeah. George Sessions says, Thomas Frank catching strays from David Pleat during the half-time chat at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium after Clive Allen joked he would have got 50 goals if he was not rested at Everton in 1987. Pleat takes over. He should have got 50 goals. Now we're lucky to have a shot. I don't think David Pleat's going to be invited back anytime soon. If Daniel Levy was still here, David Pleat would never have been there anyway.
I was sitting right next to him during the game. He looked not happy during the game. I can tell you that.
And Jack Pitbrook saying, I fear that Tottenham are basically as bad right now as they were in January, February, but with less mitigation, less credit in the bank for the manager, and without the sense of a shared purpose provided by the Europa League campaign. Yeah.
Essentially. That's essentially how it is at the moment. Caicedo's about to be sent off.
Absolute facts. But look, that is the way the internet did react to the game yesterday. Just watching the Arsenal game here, it looks like Caicedo's about to be sent off for a lunge on Marino.
God.
Chelsea were looking good as well.
Yeah, but it's a poor challenge. He's got really nowhere to... Well, he does slip. It's unfortunate. But
Studs up in his ankles.
Studs up on the ankle. It's a dangerous challenge. I think he slips here. No, he doesn't.
How many red cards are Chelsea going to get this season? Bloody hell, man.
Yeah, I don't think... I don't think he's got any way to go. It's a horrible challenge.
And that will be game over, that.
Yeah, it's high. And it's he's got his foot planted as well. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. Oh, and all of this is happening while Arsenal winning the league. Could it be any more horrible this season?
The problem as well is not just Arsenal winning the league, but what they're going to win with it.
Oh, don't even start. If I offered you Arsenal just win only one trophy right now, you're
probably taking it.
You're
Yeah.
probably taking just one at the Champions League or the Premier League instead of a double. Yeah.
I prefer them to win the Premier League than the Champions League, Roy.
God, now that's where we're at. At least last season, yeah. You guess it's you, Caicedo. What do you think? Oh God. This game's over. This game's over, man. Oh dear.
Caicedo has been sent off, people.
At least last season, when we went through all that shit, we at least had a happy ending.
Yeah.
Arsenal didn't win anything. We had a European trophy. We could be happy for a summer.
Danny Kiriakou with a super chat saying #Sim out. Here's the problem. Bigger than Richie. Bigger pick.
What?
Don't know what that means. Bigger pick in brackets. Richie gone.
Bigger.
Oh, bigger pick.
Bigger
He's saying
picture.
the bigger picture
Bigger
is Richie
picture.
going.
Our top goal scorer, Danny.
Richie is far from the biggest problem at this football club. That's the reality,
That's
man.
what I think.
I completely agree.
Danny's the problem.
All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it there, people. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Preview day for Newcastle.
Oh, here we go. Another day. St. James's Park. Just what you want. St. James's Park. Bloody hell.
Yeah. We'll see you all later, people. Danny says Richie is the biggest problem at Tottenham.
Okay. Keep believing that, Danny. Keep believing.
Danny, you are deluded. All right. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.